have an update for the 4th of July to show the changes, improvements, works that we have going on over here. Not a lot of color. I did go for the elephant ear for impact, which I really am enjoying. I wish I had planted some better color earlier in the season. I do have perennials that are getting ready to bloom. Throughout the tour, you'll see a lot of clearance annuals that don't look great now, but I know in another month's time they'll be great, like these impatiens over here below the elephant ear. Then we've got some supertunias back there. The Rigucci clematis made all the way up the post this year. It's past its prime, but still very cute. And I have the transplanted phlox, which is covered in snails. So this year I haven't really battled slugs too badly. It is snails. Fortunately, they seem to do a little less damage. So I'm hoping to get some blooms on the phlox. And then below that, I have the balloon flower that was a transplant from a friend of mine, and I'm happy to see that survived. And I have one Schubertii allium head that I have not cut back to save. One of the regal geraniums of the many that I planted that actually looks okay, needs a little bit of deadheading. And in the front, I made a little bit of change, still have to move some things around. I added the impatiens for color because behind all of this greenery, it's just kind of blah, but it is a lot of shade. I'm thinking I'll probably go back to coleus next year. That really made the most impact several years ago, and I really enjoyed it. So these impatiens look great because they've been planted right from the get-go. I did move a couple of the millennium alliums, so I'm having a cluster over here rather than having them spaced evenly on either side of this hydrangea standard, which is large and in charge. So there is one millennium allium over here, and I do need to swap over to the other side. And I've got my sprinkler hose down there because it has been very dry and doesn't get rainfall over here. Also, every year I try throwing some kind of seedling that I don't have room for in this garden, and they usually get floppy. So no surprise, these are floppy. Oh, I gotta be careful because there is a yellow jacket nest or wasp's nest under my deck here. So these are really cool. Kind of goofy and leggy. I left these because they look the best. There were some others that were very worn. Japanese maple, still the star of the show for me. And I'm really glad I cut this catmint back at the very beginning of June. So it will actually have some color sooner. I tend to cut it back too late and wait forever for it to rebloom. So that's starting to flush out. And I usually have to pull these poppies. The foliage usually is hideous by now. And here and there I'm having to pluck some leaves, but I don't mind the seed heads. A little bit of interest are starting to go by, I suppose. Here are some more of those not so beautiful annuals. We've got coleus and these petunias I had planted early to kind of carry on the pink from the impatiens. All of the orange geraniums were ones I started myself. Very proud of those. Please ignore the dog statue. That never got touched up this year. I'm not sure really what I'm throwing in here. I don't like the bare spot. I'm contemplating these two plants that I recently got on clearance. And in the back we have Rudbeckia that has been there for a very long time. And this year I have phlox blooms. The deer tend to always eat this right before it's ready to bloom. So I've been able to make bouquets out of that. I've had actually a lot of bouquets this year. Things are producing really well. The espalier that never bloomed, never set fruit, covered in bugs because I did not spray it, which I should have because the bugs always love the fruit trees. The side garden is a little lackluster, I guess. The color is great. So from afar, super happy with the smiley sunflowers and the geraniums. It's nice to see those across the yard. I did have some of the cosmos fall over because there were some storms when we were away on vacation. And I don't really know what to say about this. So this is the shade portion. I'm going to be moving some things around. For example, this astilbe is too large and really should be moved to the back, like over here. And then I'll swap that hosta to the front. I'm thoroughly enjoying the variation of color and texture over here. This hydrangea is blooming. That one is not. Not 100% sure if it really is the sun issue or is the soil really that poor over there. What's new in this section is this berry. I've always contemplated growing some blueberries, but being from Maine, we have excellent wild blueberries, and those really are my favorite. However, I don't mind having big berries in my pancakes. The netting so far has saved me most of my berries. I think a critter was getting under the netting a couple days until I caught on. Prior to that, the birds were picking them off. The Veronica is a new plant. Treated myself to that, so I'd have more color over here, not just the annuals, because some of the annuals, it takes a really long time for them to come up. This is some kind of crazy zucchini that a friend gave me. And the yarrow, this is several years old, is doing really, really well. This one here I just planted from seed. This year it was a winter jug sown, so that won't bloom till next year. This is Sweet Annie. I primarily will use that as dried greenery. My failed zinnia patch, super bummed about this. These were the only taller ones that really made it through my spring sowing indoors. So all of these ones over here I direct sowed, and some of them are short, like when they're mature. So kind of a disappointment. Ground cherry's doing okay. Probably should put some netting on that because I know the critters like to get in there. I do have a few more zinnias tucked in the front. Nothing happening there. They're budded up. Dahlia, which I don't see a lot happening with this one either. Carl Forster grass is super happy. And then this is a sun gold cherry tomato I started myself. Over here we have these tiny spoon one, but they don't look very tiny to me, so I'm not sure about that. The tiny spoon ones also did take a digger in the seed tray crash, so maybe I didn't actually have any survivors. I believe this is the Siam tomato, which is supposed to be a petite one. Cucumbers finally have some blooms happening. I probably should be out here helping them pollinate, but they're making some good headway. And this dahlia just popped open yesterday. Very pretty. It's probably one of the jowy ones, if I remember correctly. This is the feverfew that survived over the winter. I love that little plant. I wish I had more seedlings. This Rudbeckia has not bloomed yet. I had to tie it together because it was all splayed out. So this spring I had added the free cocoa coir mulch or amendment, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know if that's why this bed is not doing that great. I worked it in the soil, but these just seem really stunted. And I'm not sure why. So I'm gonna have to do some more composting / amending. I'm proud to say the not so pretty deer netting has actually worked really, really well thus far. And we're getting pretty big deer traffic recently. So far they're sticking to the edges and browsing. Like, they haven't even eaten these ditch lilies over there, which is really shocking. I caught them trying to eat that clematis, the Sweet Autumn one. But I put some spray down and it seems to be working. So my not so beautiful fence, but with my beautiful bark mulch paths, I shoveled some more in here. I need to spread out. Phyllis Marigold, a couple of those. This is another one of those super cute Siam tomatoes. Very excited for those to mature. This is one of the pom-pom dahlias, and it seems to be white, but I know that there were some orangey colors too. I'm not really sure why that fell over. I probably should string it up. This bed we have straw flower and some cosmos that the Japanese beetles seem to be enjoying. Oh, yep. I haven't had a huge infestation. I've handpicked a few. Bee balm looks really, really nice. And I did pop one dahlia in there, and it's doing pretty well. It's holding its own. Oddly, the comfrey didn't get as huge as usually. This is gigantic. And it had a couple bloom stalks, but not much. There's a Thunbergia seedling I had tossed in there. So these are sage. Look at the tag again. Clary sage, that's right. Not 100% sure when I'm harvesting this. I believe I just let it go and the bract will turn pink. So I gotta do a little research on that one. Finally, my celosia is coming to life. That's taken some time. So I'll be able to cut that. The one ageratum that survived. However, I'm okay with that because that mofo reseeded everywhere. Literally this entire, anything that was bare soil has ageratum seedlings. I have pulled so many out from over here, the bed beyond that. Super aggressive reseeder. I'm so happy these sunflowers survived. So I've got, what, 4 there. That will be for cutting. Saponaria bloomed while I was on vacation. Okay, I guess. Kind of lackluster. I guess I picked it when it was in peak. I did let these ageratum go, which I'm probably going to regret. I just need to make sure to cut them. Bachelor's button, still able to get some of those. Like I said, I've had a lot of bouquets this year. For some reason, the white lilies and the black lilies seem to have completely disappeared. So I've got the pink Asiatics going really strong. Those are many years old. My deal, a solid 6 feet again. Some self-seeded Cleome from last year. And this is another pom-pom dahlia, red in color, which it looks like I've harvested all of those. Kind of cool to have some red, because then it complements really well with the larkspur. I'm so excited I finally have larkspur this year. Such a pretty color, and it's kind of a variety. So we have, you know, the bluish purple color, and then there's also a little bit more deep color. That one, and then we have the pastel. So that's been nice. I only had a couple of blue plurums survive. I believe I did those winter sown, and that's one of my favorite fillers. Wish I had more. Very tired looking over here. Also, whatever these stupid little bugs are, come on, doesn't want to focus, of course. Little black beetly bugs. They are all over every damn snapdragon that I have, everywhere. They're super in love with the snapdragons. I'm just kind of shaking them off and picking them when I can. This bed is very beat up because I never got the netting over here. A lot of these bloomed while I was on vacation, so I've just cut them crooked and wonky. This was also where I had some ranunculus in stock. And you can see the weeds. So that was the biggest pitfall to going away, was the weeds took over. And I've been working here and there. This is the last section I've really gotten to. they're just out of control between crabgrass and ageratum everywhere, and stupid oxalis. I've got that everywhere too. This beauty was seeded last year, survived the winter, and is looking great. So I've cut off of this several times. Really happy I did that. Nice and big and full. Got some more snaps coming along. This is that pink geranium. Of course, I can't remember. It's very hardy. My onions are doing really well over here. In the beginning, I had a lot of vole or chipmunk activity, so the sweet peas never took off. My plan is this bare spot is going to become my other perennial geraniums. So I have one in the back garden as well as one in the side garden that just got a little too floppy and large. So I'm going to let them kind of be a perimeter hedge along this garden, because I really did enjoy doing zinnias, but those get tall and lanky and often get powdery mildew. So the geraniums will stay small so the other flowers can shine. This is still pretty much neglected. Excuse me. This is the tree that got the late frost, so it still has some life under there. I can't say it's my favorite. Might pull it out, might not. I don't know. Most likely I'll pull it out, but I'm worried about the roots. There's going to be a lot of roots down there. This is my lemon balm, so I've been cutting that here and there, tuck into bouquets. Ugly little sad spirea that has been moved and kind of beat up. Deutzia, that's one of them. All of that dark, messy stuff, that was all of my forget-me-nots that kind of died back when I was on vacation, so I haven't raked those up. Hydrangea that was a transplant from my parents, doing really well. So next year that should have blooms. Ooh, maybe this year. Yeah. And Solomon seals died back. Butterburs still looking really good. A little bug damage, that's okay. And astilbe everywhere. My plan is to transplant some of these astilbes, and the pink ones I had gotten from my parents, which had a very established, prolific plant. So maybe I transplant these like along the driveway so I have pops of color when you come in, just kind of along with all the weeds and whatnot. Or I might just transplant some of these, well, primarily this one, and I have another one on the side to the back closer to the rocks, because the hostas that I have back there obviously are shorter. So it makes more sense to have astilbe in the back, hosta in the front, kind of like we just saw on the side garden. Really great for cutting now. I have gotten a lot of cuts and obviously have many more. New over here we have a peach GM, another clearance coleus, and then just hostas everywhere. So we have the Diamond Lake over here. This is one that I never got named, so I'm not confident in making up a name for it. Another Diamond Lake, and this one's Lakeside Paisley. This little fella doesn't have a tag. It's the smaller Joe Pye weed. So I had to do some research to try to remember what the heck did I throw over here, and Joe Pye weed. Love my white astilbe. More pink from my parents. And this larger green hosta, which also does not have a name. No, this is the one that doesn't have a name. I'm sorry. The one over there is elegans. Is that the right one? It's one that I transplanted from back over there. Not elegans. Of course, it escapes me. And I still think I'm going to move that cute little Brunnera. It looks awesome in the spring because none of these plants in front of it have grown up, but it just seems to be failing. I don't think there's enough healthy soil there. I probably could put an astilbe there and that thing will grow. Astilbes are so rugged. And the autumn frost hiding under the lilies. And this daisy, which has a few buds, hasn't popped yet. Creeping Jenny living its best life and popping so nicely with this heuchera. It looks awesome together. And this was a hanging basket back here. Or did I plant that one? No, I take that back. I planted this one. So kind of different colors. Mint is going wild. So I've been pulling that out along. I think I'm just going to pull all of this stuff too. Woo La La. I kind of pulled that out because it was getting lost back there. Deer fencing has done its job. I don't have a lot of company over, and when I do, it's infrequently, like a couple times a year, and it's usually family. So some of them enjoy looking at the gardens, but it's not like I'm having avid gardeners coming over here. So I've just been working around the fence. This morning I did a lot of maintenance, so I did take part of it down. But everything looks so full and lush back here. Super pleased with that. So I can't really get in there to give a full rundown of everything, but nothing much has changed back here. I have added a couple of plants down at the end. One's a Hudson Bay, which I already have. And the other one is I think the plumbago is what I added down there. Some of these plants I think are weeds. I probably should deal with those. For example, in with this Amasonia, pretty sure that's a weed. Or did cardinal flower reseed itself? Because that looks an awful lot like cardinal flower too. And pretty sure this tall thing's a weed. I don't know. But still looking good. Color. Need to cut the lady's mantle. Primrose is going by. This has always been a really beautiful, healthy section. I seem to have things spaced fairly well. This is kind of interesting. On my variegated phlox, look at that very white. Like usually it will revert back to green, like that one. Very interesting. I'm hoping that will bloom since I have the fencing up as well. That is the cardinal flower in the back, which does look very much like that other weed slash plant. And I had no idea that the Astrantia is really as aggressive as it is. Like that sucker has reseeded everywhere. So I don't know how I feel about that. Another clearance plant. That will be awesome if I can get that coleus to pop up to have that purple amongst all this beautiful variegation. Same over here. Clearance annuals. So that will be cool. Coleus. This guy right here, this is my brother Stefan. It had a little section that reverted, and it was almost like it was its own plant. So I cut that apart, divided it out, and have stuck it over here in kind of this miscellaneous hosta bed. If it makes it, it makes it. If it doesn't, I don't care. I've got enough green. It's the variegation and the contrasting colors that I really enjoy. So same old. Heuchera, hosta, lamium, still be mint in the back. Gone by Solomon seal. Did a little bit of rearranging over here, so this gets very wet, and this really should be like the drainage zone for the water that kind of runs all along this border. So what I pulled out is the lungwort that was very pushed back. I literally just did that, so that will be beautiful in the spring. Blue flowers. And if that heuchera stays, because I don't ever trust my heuchera to stay, they're so short-lived, that would be beautiful together. I do have some variegated Solomon seal, which seems kind of silly to pay for it because Solomon seal reproduces so easily, but I've wanted the variegated for a long time and nobody else had any. Hellebore back here and this isn't the most beautiful thing, and I keep focusing on it, but that hellebore did really, really well. So now I feel like, should I pull it out front so it gets more exposure? But in the spring, all of these trees aren't as grown up, so you see it really well. I was doing a great job at staying on top of baiting for the slugs and snails. I was being really consistent. Went away for 2 weeks, and I've done it once since I've been home. So Cool as a Cucumber is showing the bug damage. Oh, I also moved that heuchera too, which is a very old one. I've had that for a very long time. He was over by the lungwort section. So this guy is the Brother Stefan. It's kind of leaning, so there wasn't a lot of root attached to it. Not a lot to look at. Holding bed, not all like super special plants. But if I can ever get this drainage taken care of, it'd be really cool to kind of curve the garden like this way, so it's not so tucked under the trees. You know, gardeners always wanting to expand and improve. So that's one idea. I could curve that out a little bit more, and that particular section would be visible when you drive up my driveway. So it would be really cool to have a feature plant like a hosta, or not a hosta, hydrangea. I haven't shown this up close. Not a lot to look at because I can't help but buy plants. This became another garden 2 years ago. My memorial garden for my duck and my kitty. Kind of easy to maintain plants, or plants that weren't doing well in other places. I love the miniature Brunnera. I kind of wish I could see it more because I don't really come over here super often. Oh, the deer did find these lilies, which is fine. That's why they're over here. I don't care. But the other things seem to be deer resistant, other than there was a hosta there, Christmas tree hosta. It wasn't my favorite, so I don't really care that they eat that one, hence why I never moved it. But I love the lungwort. Lady's mantle's happy over here. Contemplating taking out this guy, the Aurelia, and moving it down along the rock wall somewhere. I know I already have one, but I want to move it further down for the chartreuse color. And then I could put the other lady's mantle over here since it seems to do fine. And this is my little Kim lilac, which did bloom this spring. I was kind of worried it wasn't going to get enough light, but it did. And this side of the house, when you look at it from afar, it looks so lit. And I try to do something different. I try to improve on it every year, and it just keeps getting reworked and reworked. This right here is a raised garden, if you will. A bunch of cattle mineral tubs that I cut some in half, left some whole, just to hide my septic. The grass always dies over the lid of the septic, and I just wanted another place to plant. So these aren't permanent plants, nothing super special. Like, more still be from my parents. More, what do you call it, sedum that I have tons and tons and tons of because it propagates so easily. Geraniums that I seeded. This is one of those tiny little campanulas. More annuals that were half dead, the verbena. Another one of my geraniums. And this is, I couldn't remember what this was when I had planted it. That's going to be the Orangium. So my one that survived the seedling phase. Sedum planter's been here forever. The mojito colocasia looks really cool. It's not going to get as big as the other ones, so I hope the sedum doesn't dwarf it. Maybe I'll chop that back, but it'd be kind of nice to have bigger blooms. And then this was a thrown together planting. Sunflowers, because I kind of ran out of room where to put those. Not to say it too loudly, but I can't believe the deer haven't eaten them yet. And another sun gold. I have some more clearance plants, sedum, and a portulaca. Doesn't look like much. And then my honeywort did really, really well. So I started these from seed last year. I think it was last year. I had bought some starts and they shipped way too early, and they were really cool. And I said, hey, I have seeds, let's see what happens. And they're holding their own. I haven't cut any yet, but they're doing really well. My geraniums, I'm so happy I did so many of those. and the purple bell vine, which very cute. Not as big of a wow plant as I thought it would be. It certainly has climbed up and it's doing okay. It's doing a good job of kind of replacing the clematis because the clematis is dying back. I gotta finish cutting out the dead limbs. Keep saying I'm gonna cover these propane tanks. Someday I will. Globe thistle. That is just getting ready to pop. Looking really good. Hibiscus is looking good this year, and in the back you see the yellowy orange. That's another Thunbergia seedling I had started. And then we have the echinacea, which is doing really well this year. So those had been clearance plants years ago. I've got 1, 2, and I think there's just 3 survivors. Yep, down there by the variegated iris. This geranium has always looked awesome in this garden, and I really do enjoy it. However, I think I'm going to move this to the back garden as the border, like I said. And then there is a Roseanne geranium, which is a little bit more of a blue-purple back there, that's very floppy and doesn't belong in the shade. So that one back there will get moved, and I think I'm going to try those in front of that garden, and maybe try a lower growing annual hedge every year rather than trying to keep it perennial. Another elephant ear. This butterfly bush I was hoping would be a heck of a lot bigger. That's not really wowing my socks off. I can get one of those proven winners. I think it's one of the Pugster Buddleia at clearance at work, if it hasn't sold by now. That's very full, but it won't get quite as tall as the one that I have planted here. So I'll give that a couple more years. This planter is an eyesore. I have this reseeded itself, the verbena, and the rest of these were clearance plants, really. Annuals that were just terrible. So I got them for 50 cents a piece, cut them back, and I've been fertilizing them. I need to do that today, actually. So not my finest work. I don't love it. I was just trying to be thrifty. And in the back I have lime basil and this little seeding patch, which always looks really good. A little messy but colorful at the same time, and one geranium that is not blooming. I think I will probably move that because it deserves to have a bloom. So that's it for updates in July, and I have a lot more work to do.